Julio Garcia wants to be on the road as much as possible, but lately there hasn't been enough work to fill his schedule.
If they don't have cargo, then there's no work.
Yes, those tariffs, I think, is affecting us big time.
Garcia's job and around 4 million others across the United States rely on business at the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach. But managers at both ports say President Trump's widespread tariffs or taxes on imports are causing a slowdown. They're seeing cargo decreases by 10% or more from this time last year.
How do truckers feel right now about all the tariff policies?
I heard everybody is very worried about the job is getting slower. I'm taking less money to my house, so it gets me stressed with my bills.
Those cargo numbers can also lead to layoffs. The Port of Long Beach CEO estimates that a 10% cargo loss equates to around 100,000 jobs lost in industries across the country.
It impacts me to thinking what's going to happen if things get worse and I lose my job, and what am I going to do?
Is there any light at the end of the tunnel for some of these drivers?
The light at the end of the tunnel, I think most people thought was a train coming right at them. So we're in a position now where, because of the uncertainty, it's hard to say.
Matt Schrapp is the CEO of the Harbor Trucking Association. He emphasized that these tariffs affect jobs beyond the ports, trickling down to warehouses and retail workers.
This is having real-world impacts on the local economy and the larger U.S. economy at the same time.
President Trump says his policies will eventually improve trade practices and support American jobs.
How long is it going to take? When are they going to fix it? Because we just living day by day.
In the short term, people like Garcia are hit the hardest.
This is Ship to Shelf, a special report on the impact of tariffs in America. I'm Perla Shaheen. Last year, Americans witnessed more than $180 billion in losses from weather and climate disasters. This year, that tally could be even higher, due in part to the higher costs of rebuilding.
Rupert Garcia is digging up the memories, coming back to take care of this empty plot of land in Altadena where his house used to be.
Somebody asked me, hey, what are you doing there? Why do you keep coming back? Because I don't want to forget how to get home.
Garcia's roots are in the soil. Multiple generations of his family lived here before him.
It's almost a responsibility that I have as a Garcia, you know, to keep my name in Altadena.
That determination is what's getting him through the stressful process of rebuilding after a horrible natural disaster. In January, Garcia lost everything in one of the most devastating wildfires Los Angeles County had ever seen. His home reduced to embers.
I knew where every piece of paper was in my shelves, and that's what I can't get out of my head, because it all burned down.
The high costs of construction pile on to his struggles. And it's not just Garcia. Victims of all natural disasters like tornadoes, hurricanes, or earthquakes will have to foot a higher bill than usual. Building materials like lumber, aluminum, steel, and plywood are all affected. Los Angeles general contractor Mitra Karamian tells me tariffs have caused about a 10 to 30% price increase in those materials. But that changes with decisions coming from the White House.
How unpredictable have the prices been for rebuilding?
When I write an estimate, it's usually, okay, this is the cost of this is the cost of that. Now, the cost of materials, I'm like, I don't know.
The bells and whistles could also cost more. The Consumer Price Index for furniture shot up in March, right after the trade war began.
There's a lot of money involved, so to not be able to turn around to a client and say, a concrete number, if you will, it doesn't make anybody feel good.
They're doing whatever they're doing, and we just have to suck it up. How much it's going to cost me, I can't control that.
Garcia taking it one brick at a time, grounded in his certainty that this will always be his home.
President Trump argues that tariffs are necessary to protect and support American companies. He says they'll raise money for the federal government, and he's shown that they can be powerful leverage to negotiate more favorable deals with other countries. But will they create jobs? Goldman Sachs says overall, no. And those analysts point to history. They say during Trump's tariffs in 2018, for every one job that was created in the steel industry, 75 jobs were lost in other manufacturing sectors. They predict a similar outcome this time. The higher tariffs on foreign steel and aluminum will have ripple effects, as Ava Joy Burnett reports.
When you think of steel and aluminum, cars or home appliances probably come to mind. The cost of those could go up after President Trump announced an increase in tariffs. But economists say the tariffs could also impact prices at the grocery store. President Trump announcing increased tariffs on foreign steel and aluminum.
We're going to bring it from 25% to 50%, the tariffs on steel into the United States of America.
The move will likely impact the cost of big-ticket items like washing machines and cars. But it could also hit consumers at the grocery store, says economics professor Andreas Walkirch.
If you look at all the packaging, like how many cans we have, lots of steel and aluminum goes into those kinds of things.
Manufacturers may pass the increased cost of producing those cans onto consumers.
It's going to mean higher canned food prices across the board for American consumers.
Robert Budway is the president of the Can Manufacturers Institute and says domestic tin steel production has decreased in recent years, forcing manufacturers to become more reliant on foreign imports.
We're almost 80% beholden to foreign steel companies because of the pullback from domestic steel makers in the tin mill market.
The Trump administration says the tariffs will protect U.S. steel workers' jobs, but that could come at a cost to consumers.
The benefits of tariffs are certainly there. It's easy to point at, hey, here's a few hundred or few thousand jobs that were actually created. The problem is that the costs of these tariffs, they are much, much more diffuse because they're diffused over millions and millions of consumers.
We've already seen a change so far this year. According to data from the federal government, the prices of steel mill products have climbed 16% since January. Ava Joy Burnett, Scripps News Group, Washington.
Here in California, one of the top imports is electronics, and not just things like TVs. We're already seeing major changes there, too.
I love this color, man.
When looking to buy a camera, customers focus on the brand and its accessories.
They normally came with a little plastic cover here.
For retailers like Sammy's Camera in Los Angeles,
This comes with the case, though.
the bigger picture is more important.
If Sony or Canon is introducing a new lens, my first question is, where is that going to be produced?
Chief Operating Officer Rui Kaminowicz says most of her inventory comes from China. All of that merchandise is now getting hit with an import tax or tariff that's constantly changing. With highs, Kaminowicz is struggling to keep up with.
I'd say across the board, most companies are not absorbing all of the tariff amounts, so they're going to have to pass it on to the end user, to the customer.
A 2025 Deloitte survey found that 46% of U.S. electronics manufacturers are trying to relocate their production out of China and to locations with lower tax burdens. Big brands like Apple and Nintendo have moved some of their operations to India and Vietnam. But that takes time, and Kaminowicz says the delay leads to higher prices and lower supply.
What have the manufacturers been telling you ever since these tariff policies have gone into effect?
We're told that we can't take back orders on certain items because they can't produce them or because they can't import them due to the high cost of the tariff is having on the item. So not only is the price higher, but also sometimes it's really hard to find those items because they're just no longer coming in.
According to the Consumer Technology Association, the average retail price for smartphones and laptops could increase by around 30%. Kaminowicz says cameras are the same, but that can always change.
Okay, that's 10% now, it's 30% tomorrow, then it's 135, then it'll go back to 30. So keeps things interesting.
Interesting and exhausting for the decades-old business dealing with unprecedented change.
Ahead, how to tariff-proof your pantry, what to know before your next grocery trip, and why exactly does China make so much of what we buy?